On August 6th and August 9th, 1944, the United States dropped atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It resulted in a loss of life totaling between 129 and 229,000 people, mostly civilians. On August 5th, 1944, Japan surrendered to the Allied forces, which effectively ended World War II. While the bombing was a devastating act of war and a massive tragedy for Japan and the rest of the world, the development of the gadget was considered to be one of the greatest feats of science of its day. One man bore the responsibility of leading the team that developed the bombs, which would subsequently usher the world into the atomic era. His name was Julius Robert Oppenheimer. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, written and directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, starring Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, and Kenneth Branagh. And for a complete cast listing, and this is one time I would say definitely go look at the link in my bio, because there is a complete cast that you should go look at. Once again, link in our bio if you want to see everybody that's in this movie. I'm not here alone. I'm here with my good friend and colleague,
JC Howard. What up, y'all?
He is back again, fresh from web slinging and Spider-Man. I think that was the last one we saw.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Quite a different movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is about J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was the father of the atomic bomb, is considered to be the father of the atomic bomb. And this is about both the creation of that bomb, the use of that bomb, and the aftermath as it came to Oppenheimer's career and what that meant for him. Yeah. JC Howard, what did you think of this movie?
I want to get this out of the way right now. It's going to win an Oscar, okay? Let's just get it out of the way. It's going to win an Oscar. It's going to win several Oscars. But does that mean it was good? I think it was all right. It was epic. It was a Christopher Nolan, big, filmed in IMAX on film. It was a big movie, right? But it was about a bomb, of course. That's kind of the central thing, kind of about the atomic bomb. But, as someone sitting in the audience, it felt like I was kind of hit with an explosion of exposition for the first 2 hours of the movie. There was a lot. I feel like I could have read a Wikipedia page about the atomic bomb and then just watched the last 40 minutes of this movie. Because the last 40 minutes, which was kind of after the twist that there is kind of in this film, the last 40 minutes was really good. I thought, I was kind of on the edge of my seat. And this is a historical film, right? I'm basically reading it, watching a history book, but I was still on the edge of my seat for it. So I really enjoyed that last 40 minutes, but the rest of the movie was just dense. It was thick.
This movie was very tough to follow. I think that one thing that I noted was that the dialogue was very convenient. And convenient in the way that it was convenient in Social Network, which I actually enjoyed, where the dialogue only serves the purpose to, one, be witty and snappy, but also to move the plot along. And you're 100% right. It was all exposition. It was exposition after exposition, which It wore on me a little bit, but I think the thing that stopped it from making me completely disconnect from the movie was that the score was incredible. Yes. The score took me, I remember at one point writing in my notebook that the score is doing some work. And then I looked and saw it was Ludwig Göransson of Black Panther fame, and he's done other things as well. But I remember seeing that it was him and not Hans Zimmer like it normally is. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, well, I guess Hans Zimmer does a lot more of the wah, but this one felt like they were really weaving a tale and creating a narrative where I don't know if there actually was a narrative in real life, but I think they successfully executed one in this time.
Yeah, no, and I think the comparison to Social Network is spot on. There were literally, I'm not just saying this, there were times where I was sitting in my seat thinking like, is this an Aaron Sorkin?
Yes.
There's so much snappy, witty dialogue and like going back and forth. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing, right? Yeah. Like, people enjoy Sorkin things. People enjoy witty dialogue. People enjoy that kind of like, snappy, repartee. But like, it was just a lot. I was just hit with it. So I was expecting the, Christopher Nolan big kind of epic thing, and, it delivered that, but it just also delivered such dense, thick exposition.
Yeah, and I think in terms of what Christopher Nolan has done in the past, this is in a lot of ways unlike anything he's done before. There's a lot of familiarity there, and I think, again, his use of score he is a person that does not mind using the score to drive a point home, to keep the intensity up, and I think that's kind of what kept me up most of this movie. But this is very different because it's so dialogue-driven, and as an audience member, you really have to follow that dialogue, and I found myself falling into the same Christopher Nolan trap. And to be honest, he's one of my favorite directors, if not my favorite director, but I fell into the same trap where thinking, man, I'm really excited to watch this at home with the caption on.
Yes. I wanted captions so bad. Yeah. I was just sitting there like, and there were also points where I was just like, if I could just rewind this 10 seconds just so I could catch that again, because it was, things moved a little too quickly for me in a lot of ways. But another thing that I was thinking about this movie is the cast.
Too many people.
So many people. And like, as you said, go check out the episode notes for the full cast listing, because there were so many people that were so underutilized that first of all, I didn't even recognize Kenneth Branagh or Casey Affleck. Like I didn't, and when I saw them in the credits, I was like, oh wait, who was that? Like they were in there, which does speak to how, you might say, how good the makeup quality was, right? Like if this movie doesn't win the big awards for Oscars, it's certainly a contender for some of the makeup awards.
I don't know that it was the makeup. I think there might have been a registry issue there, because there were so many faces in this movie and like so many big stars in this movie that it was hard to register as they were coming at the screen. And then also the problem was 2 of the actors in this movie are best actor winners in the last 5 to 7 years. And I mean, they were grossly underused, Casey Affleck and Rami Malek. And to a point where I'm like, well, this is a 3-hour movie. I'm not sure. You didn't have, it seems like maybe you didn't need Rami Malek for that. Maybe the budget on this one could have been even less if you're not using Rami Malek or Casey Affleck to basically do cameos in this movie. And again, it's distracting because if you see Casey Affleck, if you see Rami Malek, you're like, well, they're going to be important at some point. And in some cases they were, but were they really?
Not always, exactly. Yeah. And I think that generally speaking, the side characters, for the principal characters, the Oppenheimer, Strauss, Matt Damon's character, for those characters, there was, they were deeply used. They were very highly utilized. They were, utility players all throughout. But for Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, as you said, Rami Malek, Casey Affleck, they're just kind of there. And it's just like, you could have gotten, Joe Schmo to play this part. Like, I don't understand what the point was of bringing in some of these big names for these tiny little side parts.
Yeah, and I think so I know why they brought in Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt. I feel like there's parts in there where it seems like they needed some heavy lifting. And they obviously had,
especially Emily Blunt.
And they had some roles for women, obviously, in this one, because otherwise this would be a man-heavy movie. This would be nothing but men. I think there was only one woman scientist, if I'm not mistaken. I was grateful to not see see barely, if any, black faces in this movie. I'm like, hey, we weren't in this. That's like
nothing to do with it. That's right.
That wasn't us. Yeah. So that feels good. But I think I remember writing down that it wasn't an all-star cast. It was every star in this movie. And I think one of the running jokes is that Barbie, if they weren't in Oppenheimer, they were in Barbie, because that's what the casts are kind of looking like right now. So that being said, let's talk just a little bit about Cillian Murphy's acting. I was blown away. I think that watching him, I forgot it was Cillian Murphy like several times, and I've grown up with him being Cillian Murphy, the villain, my entire life. And in this one, I really got him as this kind of tortured genius womanizer who kind of is like figuring it out. He's like, he has a sense of morality about him, and he's figuring out, and he feels complicated about all of this, but he's in pursuit of the science. There's a line that they say early in the movie where he says, "I enjoy a challenge," and that's kind of echoed throughout the rest of the film. I thought he really was head and shoulders above, and I think everyone was great. Scene partners did a great job. Josh Hartnett does a great job. Like, great people. But what did you think of Cillian Murphy's acting?
So my initial kind of experience with this movie, with Cillian Murphy being in this, was I heard about an interview that he did where he says that, like, when Christopher Nolan asked him to be the lead in this, he knew that he was going to have to dedicate himself to this in a way that he's never really dedicated himself to another role. And I really do think he lived up to it.
He did.
Like, he was playing, turning it up to 11, that's what he did. Like, he was playing at 11. And, like, I mean, they weathered him, right? Like, he visibly ages throughout the course of this movie. And to be frank, like, Cillian Murphy just has the perfect face for that.
He looks like Oppenheimer. Did you look up Oppenheimer?
Yes, he looks like Oppenheimer. Yeah. And it's just like his face can bear, like, it can look young, it can look younger, and it can also look so gray and old and withered. Yeah. And it, like, his face just lends itself to that.
So, what would you rate this movie?
Oh, man. I think I would give the first 2 hours 3 stars, and the last hour, like 4.5 stars. So I'm not good at math, but, like, I think that averages out to about a 4, something like that.
Nice. I thought that you were going to be lower than mine, but I'm actually lower than you. I give it a 3.9. I think that this movie was almost there. I think it was almost a 4-star movie. I think in, like, a lot of ways it should be a solid 4-star movie. But I always feel like I end up grading Christopher Nolan down because he doesn't mix his dialogue very high. He makes things hard to follow. He forces me to watch his movies 3 or 4 times before I fall in love with them, which is okay. That's fine. But at some point, like, I'm sitting in the theater just as a moviegoer, and I'm just like, yo, I know this is going to fall very far behind Barbie. Like, putting it out on the same day was a mistake. Like, you should have put this in August where it would have cleaned up. There is nothing going on in August right now that I can remember. Like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, no thanks. Even though that review will be here, please tune back in for that on leaving the theater. But, like, come on, like why would you go up against Barbie with this? And it is an awards darling. You probably could have even waited till later in the year to put this out.
Well, I'll tell you, maybe, what has happened, obviously, is the whole Barbieheimer phenomenon, right? Yeah. They have really kind of ridden the coattails of Barbie.
They have.
Because Barbie has put in work on marketing. They have been everywhere. And Oppenheimer has kind of just, like, reaped some of the benefits. So it's possible that, like, if Oppenheimer had come out a week before or a week after Barbie, maybe no one would talk about it. But, like, coming out at the same time as Barbie, the kind of juxtaposition of the two kind of themes, just, like, spot on.
Yeah, I agree. Oppenheimer needs Barbie way more than Barbie needs Oppenheimer. Now, before I close out, there is one project that you recently worked on that I was very excited about, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to share that with the listeners of Leaving the Theater.
Yes. So I worked on this project for the podcast Code Switch, the NPR podcast Code Switch. It is called Going to White Church in a Black Body. It's kind of really a passion project of mine. It's about belief and, in this case, about belief and race and faith and how all those things kind of intermingle and intertwine. In it, I kind of explore how I have been in white evangelical church before in my life and the experiences that I found there, as well as other folks who've done the same. So definitely check it out if you have a chance.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Link in the show notes. Code switch. Going to white church in a black body.
I'm so excited. Great job. Great listen. I really enjoyed it. Most of y'all know that I've been in church my entire life, so really excited about this. If faith and race and all those things are something that you're interested in, this is definitely something you should check out. And again, the link will be in our show notes. And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios. Alexandra Ketch of Bias Studios mixes the show. Thank you, Alex. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about Oppenheimer or JC Howard, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. You can find out more about this show and other OhitsBigRon Studio shows by following us on Instagram at OhitsBigRon Studios and on Twitter at OhitsBigRon Stew. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening. And thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Every time I go by here, I'm always like, do I want Five Guys? Five Guys has never put a commercial on air, but their existence is enough for me to just be like, do I want Five Guys?
They're good. Just solid.
Like, I remember when someone started pitting them against In-N-Out Burger, I'm like, that's not a competition.
Yeah.
Like, I know what I'm going to In-N-Out for, and I know what I'm going to.
Let me be the official word. As someone from California.
Yeah.
Five Guys.
It's two different. Well, one, I don't think it should be a competition because I'm like, it's two different experiences.
That's very true. It's not just two different, but like the exact opposite of one another.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the most simple thing you could get.
Yeah.
Versus like have whatever you want.
Correct.
But,
yes.
You know.
Yeah.
I will say, if In-N-Out had bacon.
Yeah.
We'd have to actually have a conversation.
We'd be in there, right?
We'd be in there.
All right. I'm over here, so I normally stand next to the balcony.